Okay, Dr. Sandra, please. Now you can control the PowerPoint.
Test 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Good morning from Berlin. Yeah, hello. Thank you, Pak Reza, Pak Dr. Reza. Thank you for the invitation, and I'm happy to be here in online lecture Management of Technology, Telkom University Bandung, Indonesia. It is a very good morning here in Berlin, but it is a little bit cold, but my heart is warm for you. Once again, thank you very much. Today's lecture is about managing knowledge process. I will talk to you more based on my experience as senior process engineer in some of industries in Germany. First of all, I will introduce myself. My name is Suhendra. I graduated from Ponegoro University, and my master I have finished in double degree program in 2002 between Bandung Institute of Technology and University of Magdeburg, Germany. My PhD program was in Cottbus, Germany. My postdoc program was in Bundesanstalt für Materialforschung und Prüfung, Germany. Now I am as senior process engineer. I am as a process engineer. It was very good experience for me here, which is a little bit different with other countries in terms of style of working, in terms of the discipline, in terms of productivity, in terms of efficiency. And also, it is also good for me to know the background of technology in Germany. So what I would like to present today is related to process management or knowledge process management. These are the problems we should know about knowledge process and knowledge process management. The first problem is, the first question is, what is knowledge itself? How does this differ from information? And the next question is, what is knowledge management? And the next questions are, is it possible to manage knowledge, and can we organize the knowledge process, and how to share, how to develop of knowledge? The contents of my presentation today is the first is introductory part, and the second one is knowledge process, and the third one is if we talk about knowledge, what is knowledge? Can we buy knowledge? Can we sell knowledge? Where and how much? And this is the question about is it possible, or is knowledge marketable or sellable? And the fourth one is knowledge management, the core of our lecture today. And the last one is knowledge management and innovation. It is related to each other because if you are talking about knowledge management, we must also talk about innovation, which is core of knowledge itself. Now, I will present now introductory part. It is more related to my own experience, from hand-on experience in chemical plants or planning of chemical plants in Germany. It is very good as example here because if we are developing or planning to develop a chemical plant, it is similar with other technology, like in automotive industry, like in electronic industry and so on, because it is more on plan and we have to manage our resources, financial resources, human resources, time planning, and so on. As a chemical engineer, as a professional engineer, we have to deal with also personal human resources and also how to convince them that our solutions are the best one or the best available technology today. So this is that is the main point that from this example, I would like to present here how the knowledge management is functioning in our daily situation for technology development. If we are dealing with a technology or developing a technology, or developing an industry, for example, we should now first of all, what is the value of our competence, of our core competence? And the next one is, what should we do? What should we plan to realize our technology? In engineering activities, we should know the levels, the time planning of our activities. We call it as a capital value process. And normally there are some levels or some phases. Let's say first phase, second phase, third phase, and so on, until the end of phase of our planning, of our technology planning. The second one, the first one is initial or feasibility study planning. The first phase of our idea. If we have an idea, develop our technology, we should first of all gain the knowledge. What is the technology we should develop? Is it possible, or is it not possible? We have to convince that our technology is functional. Our technology is, in terms of economic point of view, we can afford it, and so on. So the first level of our work is the feasibility study, or a so-called price study. And from this price study, we have to select our definite technology. The selection phase is after the approval from the management. And the third one, the next one is a define phase. We have to define the equipment. We have to define what kind of machinery, what kind of equipment we should buy, we should look for, and so on. And if we have already get approval from management that our proposal is feasible, the next phase is execution phase. We have to buy all of equipments we get approved from the management, and the execution phase also we have to plan in which area and which part of location our equipment or our technology should be located. And the next phase is operational or functioning of our technology. This is the so-called the knowledge process we have to gain before our technology develop. It is full of knowledge, full of technology assessment, and we have to be careful in each phase or in every phase of our project phase. This is also knowledge organization. If we are talking about knowledge organization, it means that our team must be informed enough, must be capable enough, must be qualified enough in terms of know-how and so on, so that our organization has the same level of understanding to develop or to install our equipment. So this is the conventional, or let's say a normal engineering project cycle, if we are talking about how we develop a technology in engineering, conventional engineering project cycle. The first one is project initiation. The second one is we should propose our idea. We have to describe our machinery. We have to describe our equipment. We have to provide the basis of knowledge and so on. We have to propose our methodology, and until we have to provide and present the results, that our results are feasible for technology development. This phase or this knowledge organization in project cycle is also important for us, and it is full with knowledge process management. Inside this process, inside this project cycle, we have to know what kind of engineering phase, for example, what kind of effect, what kind of impact of our technology in terms of safety, in terms of environment, and so on. So that the decision after each phase is based on technology and based on our knowledge of each team member. So this is also the next phase is also to develop a package of in a team. Yeah, this is also the basis of importance of knowledge management. If we want to develop a technology, if we want to install or buy or something like that, a new industrial production, for example, we have to work in a team consisting low personnel, controlling finance, personnel, sales department, sales personnel, production personnel, technology assessment personnel, environmental health and safety quality personnel here. We have to also work together with energy optimization employer team, and also research and development team here, also marketing team. The cross-functional team, yeah, it is cooperation together with the whole project team. So it means that the whole team will work together to provide a proposal or result for decision making. So after we provide a result, we give to the so-called decision support package. It means that the management will decide if our proposal, if our technology is feasible to be developed or to be installed. Once again, it is about technology management or knowledge management. And at the end, decision support package, decision support packets should provide us, should provide the team or the management about project overview, the goals, the target, for what, in what term, in how to operate the industry and so on, the production rate, the financial background, the limitation, the environmental impact, the safety limitation, and so on and so forth. And the management should also know the economics background, the profitability, the budget, cash flow, and so on. The risk analysis must be also provided. The risk analysis must be also given, and the project planning also must be provided. This is the decision support package in terms of technology management, or knowledge management, and besides this decision support package, we have also to provide technical documentation to the management. So this background I presented here in order to give you a little bit technical background how the process of knowledge management in daily activities of an engineer, of professional engineer. It is full of knowledge, full of management of knowledge behind this process, these activities, so that to the next phase we can talk together, we can see together what is the fundamental aspect. And at the end, we have to assess our technology. We have to assess our technology. We have to make a technology assessment if our technology feasible or not feasible, if our technology environmental friendly or not, if our technology economically acceptable or not, and so on and so forth. And also we have to know if our technology from knowledge or from level of knowledge is or has a future impact. It means that not only today impact, but also sustainability of this technology must be guaranteed. It means that it must be acceptable enough for the future of for the future operation of the technology. So it is the simple technology assessment based on knowledge we have before we say that our technology is acceptable or not. For example, the future impact is low or high, and recent impact is low or high, and it is based on K knowledge, based on basis of fundamental knowledge, based on advanced knowledge we have today, or if we say that it is not relevant, the technology for the recent application today we can also make assessment of the our proposal of technology. For example, the page I present here is in field of automotive industry, in terms of metalwork, in terms of motor technology, or in terms of sales of the automotive, our car, for example, in terms of sales is good or not, or our competitor is good or not, and so on and so forth. So we can make a simple assessment how our technology or our proposal for technology installation or technology application is acceptable or not. It's also based on knowledge management in daily activities of engineering activities. So knowledge is also about human. Human meaning that human, one person to other person, communicate each other in one location, in one office, in one room, to share the knowledge, to grow, to make the knowledge grow and grow. So it is as an example in our daily activities that we have also we have to also consider. We have to consider that our location of our working room is acceptable enough for sharing knowledge, for communicating each other, in order to the knowledge transfer, knowledge management is good enough. For example, we have three different examples of rooms, of working rooms, which working room good is or not good. For example, the first one, or the top one is good concentration. It's very private room, but the communication is not good, and as the consequence is knowledge process or knowledge management will be not good, because knowledge management is more about communication with each other. And the second one, or the middle one, is the room which is very open, good for communication, yeah, good for socialization, good for sharing, but for individual concentration is not good. And the third one, the lower one, yeah, is a room which is good for concentration and also good for communication. This example, I would like to inform you at present here that if you talk about knowledge process or knowledge process management, we have to consider every detail of consideration, every detail of aspects, human aspects, technology aspect, also rooms aspect, office aspect, and so on, where we should work. So this is also the consideration that knowledge process is related to also a working environment, working office, and so on. Also in daily activities, what I have already worked until now, what I've been working until now, is every detail of activities we have to document it. We have to document. We have to make a documentation of every project, of every detail of activities. At the end, we have to make a lesson learned from each project. For example, here, title of the project, description of experience, let's say experience in installing some particular instrument, a description of assessing, let's say, a pump or a compressor and so on, and what has worked out well or what went wrong, for example, which lesson can be gained. Yeah. So process management, I will talk to you about here about that. Process management is related to documentation. So we can, from these documents, we can share to other that, or to the next phase or the next work, that we should do the good thing and we should avoid, or we must avoid the bad thing. Now I'm coming to knowledge process. It is understandable from the point of it's not actually it's not how do you call it in German? It's trockene Bereich, it's trockene aspek, garing lah bahasa Indonesianya. Karena masalah knowledge process, knowledge management ya, itu hal-hal yang kaitannya banyak teoritis. Tetapi dari teoritis itu kita harus mendasarkan atau mendisiplinkan diri kita bahwa satu proses ke proses lainnya harus diperhatikan. Okay, I will continue the presentation. Now, what is knowledge? Knowledge, it is understandable, hopefully, that knowledge is, the first term is data, or collection of facts, or measurements, or statistics, or reports, or story, or something like experience, history, and so on and so forth. Knowledge is also information in terms of organized data. From this organized data, we can have impression, we can have then information and so on. Knowledge is also contextual, relevant aspect of some kind of data, some kind of information, and sharing actionable information. Knowledge is also change something or somebody for action or for making an individual or institution capable of different, or information that makes more effective, more efficient action, and more economic point of view, good, better. So knowledge is can be character. The first of can be from character, and the character doesn't have any meanings. It's only a symbol. Before, yeah, the character is before the character or the symbols added a syntax. Yeah. For example, it can be from 5 and 0. In 0, it's only character or symbols. But if you are added together in a data or syntax, it can be 500, and then it has a meaning, yeah, because it has more meaning. Yeah. Then it will be a data, and that it doesn't have any meaning. Yeah, doesn't have any powerful meaning. It can be said that, oh, it is expensive, or it is less expensive. 500 euros, 500 rupiahs are different. So it's semantic aspect. From semantic aspect, you can gain information. What is behind 500? So semantic, kesusastraan. bahasa, perasaan, dan sebagainya. Ya. Inilah kemudian memberikan informasi. Apa itu dia di balik 500? This information, 500 degrees Celsius or 500 degree Fahrenheit, and so on and so forth. It's different. Price 500 euro, price 500 rupiahs are different. So both are doesn't have any meaning if cannot be added in a pragmatic point of view. For example, it is let's say expensive, or it is cheap, and so on. Yeah. For example, it is price of equipment, it is price of shoes, it is price of let's say car or motor car, and so on, electric car. From this one, we can get knowledge. Yeah, from the data 500 until we get data, we get information, and then afterwards we have new knowledge. Yeah, what is behind any information. So this is the stage of knowledge. This page I will present here. The fundamental aspect behind this presentation is that the data, yeah, from the data until competitiveness, of until the capabilities, until the action, and so on and so forth, are different each other. It means that the knowledge itself doesn't have any meaning before we have to be capable to do something, to do an action, to be an expert, to be a competitive or unique people, and so on. It means that data and then information and then knowledge can be can add a value to the people who gain this kind of knowledge or this kind of knowledge level. For example, if we have information, it doesn't any, or does it has lower meaning, lower value without any knowledge. And only knowledge without capable to do to act something, it has still lower meaning. It means that the stage of knowledge, tangga-tangga pengetahuan, ilmu pengetahuan, dan sebagainya, targetnya adalah aksi, kerja, dan kemudian menghasilkan expertise, dan menghasilkan unit. If you don't have any competitiveness, we don't have any uniqueness, people don't trust you that you have powerful knowledge. The question in every job, in every profession we have, either you are electrical engineer, you are informatics engineer, you are mechanical engineer, or you are chemical engineer, or you are geological engineer, what kind of information do we need in every decision we should provide? Yeah. Internally or externally, what kind of information that we should provide, we should deliver, or what kind of information we must gain from external. This is very important and very critical in every decision making of every profession. Dari karakter sampai data, kemudian menjadi informasi, menjadi knowledge, menjadi capable, menjadi aksi, menjadi bernilai kompetitif. Nah, ini yang menjadi pembeda kemudian. Nah, dalam explicit dan dalam knowledge ada yang namanya explicit dan implicit knowledge. There are explicit and implicit knowledge. We can distinguish these types of knowledge based on either the knowledge is existing or physically can be seen or not. Implicit knowledge is difficult to assess, to see, to evaluate, because it is still mainly in the people head. Implicit knowledge ada di kepala seseorang, kurang lebih seperti itu. It is subjective, it is cognitive, it is experiential learning based on people experience. We cannot see. The people can only demonstrate. Yeah. This is the implicit knowledge. Yeah. It is. It can be understandable from sharing, from demonstration. It's difficult to formalize, yeah, from person to person. In other words, explicit knowledge, it is codified, it's written, it's objective, it's rational, it's technical. It is acquired through study and so on. We can see, we can learn, we can understand, we can share easily, or at least easier, because it is it can be seen. It is implicit and explicit. This is the types of knowledge until now. So in terms of process knowledge, what we should do is, from implicit knowledge, we should transfer as more as possible into explicit knowledge. It means that from people, we should share to other people into an understandable way. Kita harus membuat sebuah formulasi agar kemampuan satu orang bisa di-cloning, bisa dibukukan, bisa didokumentasikan, sehingga dipahami semakin banyak orang semakin baik. Kurang lebih seperti itu. Masih oke ya?
Masih.
Oke, good. Kebanyakan bahwa knowledge yang ada saat ini adalah seperti ini. Ya. Jadi explicit knowledge or implicit knowledge is more than explicit knowledge, because some people are difficult to share. Some people are not easy to share. Some people are not easy to talk to others, for example. So it is so-called tacit knowledge. Yeah. Tacit knowledge is how the let's say driving, cooking, playing music, and so on, playing football. It is tacit knowledge. But if it is already written in a book, handbook, and so on, it is so-called explicit knowledge. So it is implicit knowledge, the right hand, yeah, and the left hand side is explicit knowledge. Implicit knowledge, like people who expert in playing music, but explicit knowledge is the written music. So it is a caricature that the challenging aspect of our daily activities in process management is, one important aspect is documentation. In order to share as much as possible the knowledge from implicit in a standardized way. Yeah. These are the reason why the people do not want to share their implicit knowledge. The first one, knowledge is power. I want to keep it. Knowledge is expensive. I gain it very difficult in my life, for example. I don't have time to share to you. That's not my job to share to you. That's not my job to tell you. You have to give me some money, for example. You are just wasting my time. Yeah, this is one example of why the people do not want to share. It means that it's difficult to develop a proper process management, yeah, or knowledge process management in this way. So that's why in terms of knowledge process management, we have to deal with such kind of people, and we have to look for the solution if we are dealing with such people. Ini pernyataan yang bagus, ya, bahwa knowledge is the only resource which grows as it is shared. Yeah. If the knowledge is still implicit, we cannot share. Itself is covered only in one person. Ini cerita tentang banyak teknologi yang mati begitu di beberapa negara maju karena individualisme, karena karakter individualisme di banyak negara. Jadi banyak negara sebenarnya engineer-nya bagus, sebenarnya profesionalnya bagus, tetapi karena karakter mereka tidak mau terbuka, sehingga knowledge yang ada itu tidak bisa berkembang dengan baik. Kebalikannya, ada banyak perusahaan yang memberikan keluangan waktu gitu untuk sharing each other. Sebagai contoh, beberapa perusahaan yang saya bekerja di dalamnya, kami memperoleh waktu 1 hari atau kurang lebih 8 jam untuk tidak melakukan apapun pekerjaan, ya, tidak melakukan apapun pekerjaan, hanya duduk di kantor, ngomong dengan kawan-kawan dan sebagainya. Dan dari situ mungkin kita sedikit ada relax untuk bercerita pada yang lainnya. Nah, ini juga misalkan contoh di beberapa perusahaan besar, ya. Perusahaan Google misalkan, perusahaan, saya tidak bisa sebutkan satu persatu ya, tapi banyak sudah perusahaan yang memandang bahwa knowledge itu adalah hal penting. Dan salah satu aspek penting dalam knowledge proses management atau knowledge transfer adalah sharing, communicating. Jadi kami diberikan waktu kurang lebih 8 jam lah, kurang lebih 8 jam untuk dalam 1 minggu atau 1 hari dalam 1 minggu untuk mengerjakan apapun yang kami inginkan. Nah, saya sekarang masuk ke poin ketiga. Kenapa knowledge itu penting? Ya. Kalau kita sudah tahu tentang knowledge, aspek knowledge, ya, baik eksplisit maupun implisit. Ya. Nah, kemudian kita pada satu poin, kalau ada knowledge seperti itu atau pengetahuan seperti itu, apa gunanya? Bayangkan misalkan kalau kita membeli sebuah perusahaan, ya, atau sebuah organisasi dan sebagainya, atau kita membeli sebuah benda, kita membeli tanah, kita hanya membeli bangunan, dan tanah saja. Ya. Kita membeli rumah hanya bangunan saja. Tapi kalau kita membeli kantor, membeli perusahaan, membeli klub bola, kita tidak membeli klub bolanya sebagai stadionnya. Kita tidak membeli klub bola atau perusahaan sebagai gedungnya. Tetapi yang paling penting adalah kita membeli knowledge-nya yang ada di dalam organisasi tersebut atau perusahaan tersebut. Beda kalau kita membeli baju, membeli mobil dan sebagainya, yang kita beli adalah fisik. Tetapi yang kita beli dari sebuah perusahaan bola, misalkan sepak bola, membeli Barcelona, membeli Inter Milan, membeli Real Madrid misalkan, adalah pemain-pemain berkelasnya yang memiliki skill-nya, people-nya. Ya. Membeli perusahaan konsultan, kalau saya berapa kali perusahaan saya yang saya bekerja itu 2 kali ganti perusahaan dan 2 kali dijual belikan seperti jual beli mobil begitu. Perusahaan konsultan yang kita jual apa? Nggak ada, bukan ada apa-apa. Bukan gedungnya yang kita jual, bukan aset mobilnya bukan kita jual, tapi yang kita jual adalah people-nya, orang-orangnya, knowledge-nya. Kemudian level dari knowledge yang kita jual. Itulah yang kemudian kenapa kita berbicara penting knowledge proses manajemen ini. Saya lanjutkan ya. Is knowledge powerful? How much is the price and how to buy or sell knowledge? Ini sebuah contoh. It is an example from some industries, some different industries. In industry of health and personal care, in industry beverage and tobacco, in broadcasting and publishing, they have the same, let's say, market value. Yeah, let's say 100% tangible asset. Aset yang terlihat, ya, aset yang terlihat semuanya sama 100%. Tetapi kita bisa lihat perbedaannya adalah beberapa perusahaan ya, memiliki aset tidak terlihat berbeda. Karena apa? Karena knowledge-nya. Yang membedakan adalah knowledge di balik itu semua. Knowledge, kerumitan, kompleksitas paten yang ada, dan sebagainya yang berada di dalam perusahaan tersebut. Ya, kalau kita lihat misalkan perusahaan bisnis consultants, ya, ini di apa namanya yang keempat dari kiri. Dibandingkan perusahaan properti misalkan, mereka hanya jual beli tanah, jual beli gedung, tetapi asetnya beda gitu. Asetnya sama, tanahnya sama, gedungnya kata harganya sama gitu, sama-sama 1000 meter persegi, sama-sama 3 lantai, tetapi dijualnya beda harganya. Nah, inilah kemudian yang kita anggap, kita sebut sebagai knowledge economy. Knowledge economy. Ekonomi, basis ekonomi dari knowledge itu sendiri. Nah, yang dibeli oleh beberapa perusahaan China, membeli perusahaan Jerman, ini saya sebut di sini, berita atau cuplikan berita yang ada di Jerman, dan saya sering mengikuti perkembangan minimal sebulan sekali, bagaimana perusahaan-perusahaan Cina membeli perusahaan-perusahaan yang kaya teknologi. Ya. Di Jerman, perusahaan KUKA misalkan, teknologi robot, ya, mereka beli. Perusahaan solar cell, mereka beli banyak sekali. Yang mereka beli apa? Ya, bukan gedungnya, bukan mobil-mobilnya, bukan komputernya, tapi adalah paper atau person behind the person, artinya kualifikasinya, paper on or person. Inilah model baru transfer teknologi, penguasaan industri dengan kompleksitas paten tertinggi. Ya. Jadi mereka beli KUKA misalkan. Anda bisa cek perusahaan robot ditemukan di Jerman atau di Eropa, bahkan mereka beli perusahaan-perusahaan otomotif atau perusahaan engineering consultants mereka beli. Perusahaan pengolahan sampah ya, yang di Jerman tidak ekonomik begitu, 250 juta mereka beli, 250 juta euro. Dari sisi aspek ekonomi di Jerman tidak ada relevansinya. Kenapa begitu mahal mereka beli? Tetapi mereka punya hitung-hitungan. Papernya bernilai tinggi, knowledge yang bernilai tinggi untuk diaplikasikan di tempat lain. Personnya ya, bisa ditransfer, bisa mentransfer, the person can share knowledge. This is behind knowledge economy. The China industry will occupy, let's say, I can say like that, occupy made in Germany until 2030. Yeah. until 2030 into to develop a new Silk Road, jalan apa namanya, jalan sutra baru hingga 2030. This is a good example for knowledge process management, because if you don't have knowledge managed in a good way, in a good manner, you cannot sell your property, you cannot sell your company, you cannot sell your business. So it is good to know that until from now we should business. It is behind knowledge economy. The new source of wealth is knowledge. Jadi sumber kemakmuran utama atau kemakmuran yang baru ke depan adalah adalah knowledge, adalah ilmu pengetahuan, adalah kemampuan, capability, informasi dan sebagainya. Jadi apabila kita menguasai informasi, menguasai knowledge, maka secara langsung atau tidak langsung kita menguasai poin-poin kemakmuran. Knowledge is the intangible intellectual assets that must be managed. This is the next point, the next point, the consequence that we have to manage our process, we have to manage our knowledge, because knowledge is intellectual assets. The image is brain power. It's not machine power, because you can make your machine in any location worldwide, like Germany. Made in Germany now. Imagine that there are so many made in Germany. They are very expensive, but I have to say that some of made in Germany, they have been produced in some other cities, some other countries. In other words, not in Germany, for example. Some of yang jujur mereka mengatakan bukan made in Germany, tapi designed in Germany. Desain di Jerman. Apa yang mereka jual sebenarnya adalah knowledge, teknologi, desain dan sebagainya. This is the so-called knowledge economy. The key challenge of the knowledge-based economy is the innovation. So we should talk in the last of this presentation. And the future has already turned into the present, and the era of knowledge has arrived. This is the important statement of our presentation today. And now I'm coming to the next session. This is managing knowledge. I hope you can hear me. You can still there. Managing knowledge. How to manage knowledge? How to let's say we have already sufficient knowledge in our capacity, and how to manage it, and how to convert our knowledge into economic value, into welfare, into prosperity, and so on. The history, I will first of all tell to you the history, why the knowledge process management is important today. The first history is about Dow Chemical. They want to apply for a patent, and even the patent is old. Actually, it was 20 years old. I mean the knowledge, the technology, but they see the patent or the technology is still up to date. If they are not patented, if the technology is not patented, they will lose the money. This is the first history. And if they want to sell the technology, it means that the documentation of their knowledge. They have to provide the documentation of the machinery, of technology, and so on. Saya pernah bekerja terakhir untuk mengassessment teknologi yang mau dibeli perusahaan Cina untuk perusahaan silicon production, memproduksi silikon untuk solar cell dari chemicals yang sebelumnya raw materialsnya adalah pasir silika yang banyak di Indonesia. Yang kami beli sebenarnya, yang kami jual sebenarnya adalah kertas. Tetapi itu bernilai harganya. Kalau saja kami tidak memproses, mendokumentasikan dengan baik, tidak bisa menceritakan teknologi kami, maka kertas-kertas itu tidak berharga sama sekali. Kertas-kertas itu tidak laku gitu. Sama dengan kertas gorengan gitu, kertas ya kertas biasalah. Tetapi dengan adanya cerita tentang knowledge transfer, knowledge documentation, maka kertas-kertas itu menjadi berharga. Kalau saja tidak terdokumentasi dengan baik, ya tidak ada nilainya. The second example is the PricewaterhouseCoopers. They estimated that the loss by inefficient knowledge management at around $80 million per year. PricewaterhouseCoopers. The third example is the loss of knowledge due to insufficient knowledge management. Yeah. It is around 31.5 billion a year from 500 largest companies worldwide. Yeah. The fourth example is Daimler Chrysler. Yeah. They can save the economy because of knowledge management. Yeah. The fifth example is SAP atau SAP ya, dan Microsoft yang memiliki lonjakan sahamnya ketika mereka share knowledge mereka ke pasar bursa. Ini adalah 5 sejarah tentang pemicu dari knowledge process management tadi. Kita bisa bayangkan dengan proses manajemen, maka bisnis kita menjadi lebih berharga, lebih bernilai. Why we need knowledge management atau KM? KM ini singkatan dari knowledge management. Traditional reason are we have to improve our decision making. Yeah. And the second one is we have to capture our knowledge. We have to document it. We have to document our knowledge. Yeah. These are the traditional reasons. Additionally, the other reasons are we have to support knowledge communities. It means that we have to share to the communities our idea, our knowledge. And the second one is due to innovation. Innovation without previous available knowledge is difficult. So that innovation is a dynamic process from one point into the other points, into the next point, and so on and so forth. From one technology into the better technology, from the best technology into the next advanced technology. So without good knowledge management, innovation is not functioning. And then knowledge persistence. It is also the additional reason why we have to apply knowledge management or knowledge process management in our business. And this is the reason why we have to apply knowledge management in organization, because we have to leverage our knowledge in organization. We have to also create, gather, maintain, share our knowledge to others in order to give others in a same understandable point of view, understandable view of technology. So this is the organizational aspects or organizational reasons why we have to apply knowledge management. And now I'm coming to the theoretical aspects of knowledge management. What is actually knowledge management? Yeah. It is very theoretic, sangat teoritis ini. Ini knowledge management itu adalah a set of method, sebuah rangkaian metodologi, peralatan yang dapat digunakan ya untuk menggali, membuat, mengintegrasikan, menggabungkan, menyimpan, mempresentasikan, mendistribusikan, ya, kemudian memberikan pada yang lain, ya, share knowledge for achieving a particular objective, untuk mendapatkan target yang kita inginkan. Secara teoritis kita bisa mengacu kepada model, 3 model. Ya. Yang pertama adalah Genfer model, yang kedua SECI model, asosiasi model, yang ketiga adalah Munich model atau Münchener model. Ya. 3 model yang hampir sama satu sama lainnya, tapi akan saya presentasikan dengan singkat saja, mudah-mudahan bermanfaat ya dan bisa dipahami kemudian ya. Ini Genfer model. Genfer model itu berbasis kepada knowledge development, ya. Pengembangan knowledge yang kita inginkan, kemudian kita sharing knowledge tersebut, ya. Kemudian knowledge tersebut kita gunakan, kita nilai, ya. Kemudian kita berwarung, ini masih bahasa Jerman, ya. Kita store, kita pelihara begitu. Business berwarung itu knowledge maintenance, dipelihara, dijaga, diaktualisasi dan sebagainya. Kemudian kalau ada feedback, ya kita identifikasi knowledge tersebut dan kita targetkan knowledge yang kita ingin akuisisi berikutnya. Dan kemudian kita dapatkan knowledge baru, ya, dan terus berikutnya. Jadi Genfer model ini atau model secara umum, model dari proses manajemen adalah model yang model yang continue, gitu. Model continue terus siklusnya berulang, mulai dari target knowledge yang diinginkan, kemudian dibangunlah sebuah project untuk mendevelop knowledge tersebut. Kemudian ada teknik-teknik atau target-target atau strategi untuk knowledge sharing, tetapi tidak bisa saya detailkan sini. Secara umum seperti itu. Ya, ada knowledge share, knowledge usage, knowledge assessment. Ini ada detail sendiri ya. Sebenarnya seperti itu, bagaimana strategi-strategi. Nah, ini sesi model ya. Intinya adalah sesi model itu adalah sosialisasi dari knowledge yang didapatkan oleh seorang, dimiliki oleh seorang, dimiliki oleh institusi. Sosialisasi sehingga dari tacit model, ya, tacit knowledge atau knowledge yang implisit tadi, yang cuma dimiliki oleh satu orang, satu kelompok, satu grup, ya, satu misalkan working group dan sebagainya, kadang-kadang seperti itu, kubu-kubuan, ya. Tapi kemudian di-share kepada yang lainnya, dieksternalisasi, ya, menjadi explicit knowledge. Semakin ke kanan, semakin besar explicit knowledge. Semakin ke bawah, dikombinasikan lagi, dan seterusnya. Kombinasi knowledge yang ada di antara sesama pekerja begitu ya, sehingga dikomunikasikan, kemudian digabungkan, dijadikan sebuah sintesis baru atau sebuah teori baru, sebuah knowledge baru, sebuah pemahaman baru. Ya, itulah combination. Makanya SECI model. Socialization, externalization, combination, internalization. Internalization artinya penghayatan, pengaplikasian, ya. Kemudian pembaharuan dan sebagainya. Ya. Boleh jadi ada beberapa orang memiliki pengalaman baru yang hanya ada di benak, nah, menjadi tacit knowledge, ya. Kemudian di share lagi, disosialisasi lagi, dan seterusnya, dieksternalisasi lagi, dikombinasi lagi, dan seterusnya, sehingga jadilah kemudian knowledge process management tadi. Semakin banyak, semakin besar, semakin ada yang kebaruan. Ini Munchener model. Yang ketiga adalah Munchener model yang berbasis pada hampir sama. Ini adalah internal aspek, ya dari penggunaan knowledge itu. Kalau ada kekurangan atau merasa kurang atau merasa kompetitor kita memiliki yang lebih baik, ya. Kemudian kita komunikasikan bersama. Kemudian dipresentasikan, ya, diceritakan bagaimana kondisi state of the art of knowledge yang ada. Kemudian ditargetkan pengembangan knowledge terbaru. Ya. Ada evaluasinya, ada targetnya, dan sebagainya, dan seterusnya. Ya. Ini Munchener model. Munchener itu artinya Munich model. Ya. Jadi ada 3 model tadi. Ya, ini saya ulang lagi. Genfer model, ya, hampir sama sebenarnya. Kemudian seksi model, ya, yang paling singkat tadi seksi model, dan 3 adalah Munich model. Ya, saya sampai kepada basis knowledge di dalam perusahaan. Ini yang model yang biasa kami pakai, ya, di industri Jerman, ya. Saya beberapa kali dapat teori seperti ini, ya, yang saya ramu kurang lebih seperti ini, ya. Jadi saya banyak bekerja di konsultan, ya, sebagai konsultan. Sebagai konsultan kami harus bisa sharing. Kami juga harus bisa menjadi pintu. Pintu itu artinya pintu itu bisa dibuka, bisa ditutup. Ditutup artinya kalau ada sesuatu rahasia, dibuka kalau memang harus diberikan sebanyak-banyaknya untuk orang lain, ke kolega misalkan, dan sebagainya. Baik balance, knowledge balance maupun financial balance, ya. Jadi kami punya kriteria knowledge dan financial. Artinya financial itu merupakan satu fungsi dari knowledge yang kami miliki. Artinya financial itu efek dari kami memiliki knowledge tadi. Ya. Kalau kami ingin hal tertentu knowledge yang harus kami improve, ya, maka kami harus introduce ke our company. Ya. Kita kasih tahu kita harus improve our technology. Ya. Otherwise kita akan kalah. Ya. Kemudian kita harus memotivasi, baik motivasi diri sendiri, motivasi tim, motivasi company, bahwa kita harus meraih sebuah teknologi tertentu. Change the motivation to develop knowledge level, sharing and motivating. Di sharing dan motivating ini 2 hal yang sangat berkaitan, ya. Sharing dan motivating. Dan seterusnya. Kemudian targetnya adalah better understanding terhadap customer, terhadap market, ya. Kemudian juga improve penggunaan dari customer, ya. Kemudian pada akhirnya adalah penguasaan market, ya, karena knowledge kami atau teknologi kami lebih baik dari yang lainnya. Nah, ini secara umum enterprise management, artinya knowledge based enterprise yang ada di kami, ya. 3 pilar atau tiga bagian utama dari knowledge management saya ada pada bagian akhir presentasi saya sebelum innovation. Ya. Knowledge management ini adalah organisasi harus berfungsi dengan baik. Secara teknik harus dikuasai juga bagaimana teknik-teknik yang mensupport dalam teknologi proses manajemen atau knowledge process management ini. Dan yang ketiga adalah human factor. Jadi manusianya juga harus di-develop, harus di-improve capability dan quality. Nah, sehingga sebagai contoh ini adalah mereka satu sama lain terkonek dengan computer system, computerized. Gitu. Knowledge mereka berada pada storing location, storing device yang sama yang bisa diakses bersama, sehingga knowledge team menjadi lebih baik dari yang sebelumnya. Nah, ini teknologi support yang saya maksud, ya, bahwa harus ada teknologi yang mensupport itu semua, ya, entah dalam teknologi project management, teknologi capturing tools, storing tools, analyzing tools, sharing tools, dan sebagainya di perusahaan, ya. Jadi hal-hal yang sederhana itu sangat menentukan, ya, dalam proses knowledge, bahkan bentuk meja, bentuk ruangan, bentuk kursi, bentuk komputer dan sebagainya, bentuk jenis jendela gitu ya, itu menentukan juga dalam proses knowledge transfer. Nah, ini saya berada pada bagian terakhir yang saya kira sudah paham semua bahwa knowledge management terkait dengan inovasi sangat lebar sekali sebenarnya pembahasannya, karena boleh jadi lebih baik ada pada sesi sendiri tentang inovasi yang tentu sangat terkait dengan knowledge management ini. Ya. Bagaimana mengaplikasikan teknologi dan knowledge, dan bagaimana kaitan antara knowledge dan inovasi. Ya. Saya kira terlalu singkat dan terlalu terburu-buru apabila saya mendetailkan inovasi ini atau bagian tentang inovasi. Tapi intinya adalah bagaimana knowledge ini di-manage dengan baik untuk kemudian dilakukan inovasi berikutnya. Karena tanpa inovasi sebuah perusahaan akan mati. Banyak contoh-contoh yang kita dapatkan tanpa inovasi terbaru begitu. Ya. Apalagi ini adalah era disruptive teknologi, ya, di mana era teknologi tertentu bisa dimunculkan dan kemudian menggilas perusahaan-perusahaan yang tidak bisa mengikuti perkembangan teknologi tersebut. Ya. Kurang lebih seperti itu. Terima kasih atas perhatiannya. Ya. Saya kembalikan ke Pak Dr. Thank you very much for your attention. Ya.
Thank you, Dr. Hendra.